Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Rajesh Shankaran here, and I'm absolutely delighted and thrilled to have Dr. Puja Sukhija with us. And hi, Doctor. I'm really privileged and happy that I'm getting an opportunity to speak to you. My name is Rajesh. Before we start, it would be wonderful if we could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey so far. Uh, uh, just to give a little bit of background to our viewers, we live in an era of sensory overload. In fact, some people have described it as an era of sensory tumult, where there is so much happening that nothing seems to register. So we absolutely have the right person to guide us through how do we navigate through this chaos or the tumult, as I said. So, Doctor, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us, your journey so far, and then there are many things I'm waiting to ask you about.
I'm a jolly good fellow. I'm a jolly good fellow. And I'm a good for nothing. Well, if I say this for myself now, perfect, because I'm leading a very chilled life at the moment. But if I talk about my past, then yes, 30 years of corporate experiences, 30 years of being with MBA youth, 30 years of being with classes from teachers to preschool teachers to principal. And what have I been doing with them? Just doing one thing: how to grab attention of your audiences. That's the only thing that I have been doing. And how did I come to that? To answer the specific question of your journey part, it's very interesting. I was a very shy child, hiding behind the curtains, hiding
Interesting.
behind
Oh,
mom's sari pallu, not coming in front at all. And from there to here, that you put me in front of an audience and ask me to speak on any subject, it happened. How did it happen? It didn't happen like magic. Let me tell you, it was an arduous journey of working on myself. So it's
okay.
called the autodidactic learning, where you teach yourself, then you get into peer teaching. And then, of course, as you grow along, it automatically expands into, being very comfortable with stage, very comfortable with people, very comfortable with unknown situations. And that, I think, Rajesh, matters the most.
Oh, wonderful. I think that is a journey we will pick some more. So thanks so much for that. And like I said, there's so many things I want to ask. So I'll get into it straight away. The sensory tumult or the clutter that we speak about. Is it real, first of all? Is it really there, or is it just that because we have chosen to be on so many social media channels? Is it an artificially created problem, or is it a real definition of the world we live in? How serious is it?
It's very serious. From 12 to 8 to 3.5. Now, if you're wondering what's this 12 to 8 to 3.5, the Gen X, the millennials had a 12-second attention span. Then came the I
Oh,
generation, which is having an attention span of only 8.5 seconds. And now we have reached, in a study, we have found out that the attention span is come down to 3.5 seconds. It's real. It's very much real. So from working with three screens, we have now graduated to working on five screens. And we are doing so much
oh,
with the technological bombardment and the overload that the attention blinks have become innumerable, just innumerable. And in that mayhem, in that chaos, how do you still manage to grab the attention? That's very important.
that is the. I think I can absolutely believe this 3.5 because when I watch a YouTube video, I can't. I'm impatient for that 5 second skip button to get enabled. So even 5 seconds sometimes feels so long. So so I can absolutely see what you're saying. So see, we often, and I come from a very corporate world. We want our people to do deep work, right? We want them to be really engrossed, really fire on all cylinders, doing that one thing.
Correct.
And you're saying people are juggling five screens. So what? Before even the solution, I first want to understand the problem as a manager myself. What is the impact of this on the work people generate? How what happens when somebody is extremely multitasking or multi-distracted? What happens to the quality of output?
So there is a soda water gaze. There is a tunnel vision that happens. So you're
Mm-hmm.
focused only on what you're currently doing. Your panoramic vision, your panoramic view goes full toss. So the general surrounding on what's happening, it's lost. So I'll give you a very
Okay.
it's a little queer example, but I think it will work. How did the Second World War happen? It was just one word, Moku Sastu. Moku
Ah,
Sastu. The Japanese emperor was asked, do you want to be with the war or do you want to stay away from the war? And Moku Sastu has unfortunately two meanings. So the people who deciphered it wrongly. And the Second World War happened. So I'm giving this example simply because people are not getting into the details of what they are doing. They're focusing, yes, but it's a tunnel vision. It's not a panoramic vision. And we need to do that. And for that, उसके लिए एक हिंदी में बहुत सुंदर शब्द है, ठहराव, रुकना. That has gone, Rajesh. And if that goes, it's going to affect the work productivity to a level which is unimaginable. We think we are achieving a lot, but are we really? It's a question to be studied in research as well as in real life. I have seen the impacts of it in the corporate world too.
absolutely. I think so true, because we also find that people, the art of having a specialist is going away, maybe because people are jumping from topic to topic and so on. So now I really wanted to come to the part I wanted to ask you, which is the art of opening speeches. Now, given what we spoke for the last, say, few minutes, I, I I am interpreting it as the ability to hook your audience. Now I come from a world where we were allowed to make an argument. So before we even come to your book, I have one more question, Doctor, is that I come from a world where we were given space and time to make an argument. Because when you made an argument, you didn't do it trivially. You had something to ask, or you had something to say. Today we are being asked to make a point in 140 characters or 2 minutes. We say reels should not be more than 30 seconds. First of all, is it possible at all to make an argument in such short spans of time? Is it even possible? Will we do a mediocre job of it, or with the right training, this can be achieved in the first place?
Can be achieved. It has to have a lot of planning, but the first part is very important. If you have not been able to hook the person who you are speaking to, whether in singular, whether in duo, whether in a large crowd, if you have lost that 7-second window, then you have lost the chance of even bringing up your argument. And if in 30
Okay.
seconds, 1 minute, if you're not going to be able to sum up, see, the rest of it can come as a dossier and as a document. But if you've made your point that this is what the problem is and this is what I'm suggesting as a solution, and then the rest can instantly follow in a huge dossier or in a research paper or in a presentation. But that's the time when you have hooked your audiences. So, for example, when we go to give an interview, everybody is talking about that. Tell me about yourself, right? Favorite question of interviewers at universities, favorite question of, और कुछ संभावना है भी नहीं ना. आप कहाँ से shoot करोगे?
At least
You
open
will
a
have to.
correct.
You, like at this senior position, you still ask me, tell me about yourself. And if you noticed, I said, I'm a jolly good fellow. So for a second, it startles. What is this woman doing? Is she crazy? But at least that gets you hooked up to me.
Correct.
So now
That's
you
a
want
very
to
good
listen
point.
to what I have to say. Maybe. Audience, बताइए आप, मेरा maybe ठीक है कि नहीं है?
Oh, absolutely. Now that makes so much sense. I confess that I was startled. I confess that I was taken aback, but I also should confess that I was hooked. I really wanted to understand, where is this coming from. So now let's get to the book and really, to our audience here, and we have a lot of youngsters here who are going to be pitching for the next few years of their life in their ladder, be it a corporate ladder or entrepreneurial ladder. They are going to be pitching a lot. So tell us about your book and tell us about really what have you found out in your journey, which I'm sure is a distillation of that is in the book. So
Correct.
if you could just walk us through that. Yeah.
So this book came as a result of a real problem. I was working with in the MBA colleges as a communications professor and as a soft skill trainer. So my job was to train the students to be able to give their interviews, whether for universities or whether for corporate jobs. Now, the
Okay.
difficulty that came was I had a different level of audiences. So there were people who knew their engineering stuff, but their English was very poor. They were struggling with
Mhm.
how do they speak up? And if they don't cross that, tell me about yourself step, then the chances of going further. And even the corporates, when they come, they want to hire in bulk. So they pick up like this. It's like ta,
Wow.
ta, ta,
Okay.
ta, 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 and they pick it up, pick the students. Then they go in for the second round. But आपका first round ही clear नहीं हुआ है, तो how? So this
How do
problem,
you ever?
this problem was striking my head a lot. And since I had a research oriented bent of mind right from my childhood, so I thought of doing a bit of a study on this. So I started garnering ways in which how you can open. So I'll give a concrete example. There was this bank
Hmm.
that had come for interviewing my students. One of the girl was very, very intelligent, but her English was, she was struggling with it. And in her mind, her belief system was, agar अंग्रेजी में नहीं बोला, तो they will not pick me up. So she came to me on a separate note.
Oh,
And she
okay.
said, ma'am, how do I do this? I said, okay, fine. Tell me what you're good at. She said, ma'am, I'm good for nothing. That's how I used that good for nothing joke that I was
Okay.
cracking.
Okay. Huh.
So I said, no, that's not a possibility. Every individual has some potential in them. Dive deep into your head and tell me what you're. She said, ma'am, I can just create poems. I said, bingo, there's your door. Now create a poem
Ah,
right now, right here about, tell me about yourself. You
huh.
know, Rajesh,
Okay.
that girl was picked up by the bank pronto,
Okay.
and she was the jingle maker along with being the business analyst for them.
Okay. Okay.
She till
So,
date sends me those messages and says, ma'am, thank you so much that I got that job. I never had the confidence of that. So
wow.
that's
So,
one example. Second is, of course,
mhm.
so there are slowly I started garnering how. So I interviewed students. What are you good at? Some said we are good at story making. So one
Hmm.
guy started his speech with, every day, sir, I came home. One day I didn't. Why? Because the
Huh.
riots had destroyed my house. I am so and
Oh,
so, and I have come up and I have risen like a phoenix from that point to this point where I'm giving you the interview. Oh my God, the
that's
expression
deep.
on the face of the interviewers, they didn't quiz him any further. Second round of
Wow.
interview. So in
So
that
if I
sense,
take sorry, go ahead.
no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
please
please,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No, no, my question was, just on these two examples, both of them showed a lot of self-awareness, one propelled by you and the other on his own. So is that a key ingredient, a degree of self-awareness of what you bring to the table that nobody else does? Is that key?
Absolutely. It's like unearthing your own self. So, like I said, I was a very shy child. Then, how
Mhm.
did I become so confident in life? Because I had to dig deep. What am I good at? Instead of bashing myself up on, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at, what is it that I'm good at? And then start working towards the goal. Through that little piece of window that you have, then the panoramic view is in front of you. But at least start the journey from there.
Start from
Step
there.
by
Okay.
step, you move ahead. I can
And
only be
any
a
techniques?
facilitator.
Correct. As a facilitator, any techniques you would like to share with our audience about what questions should I ask myself to know what I'm good at? Is there any kind of a process to it or any science to it?
Yeah, you will have to go back to your childhood on what you really liked as a child. So, for example, my
Okay.
grandchild, Sihaya, she, please tell me life stories. And this girl who will not sit for about, say, 10 seconds or 20 seconds, she'll be hooked on to the life story for about 20 minutes to half an hour.
Okay. Okay.
So So you got to get down there on what you are good at. Where can you hold your attention? Everybody will have one single thing where you can keep your attention on. Get to that and start your journey from there. So that's the first technique of
Correct.
crucial
Correct.
self-awareness.
Correct. Which is again, I think, a lot of introspection, and from there, okay. Wow, that is wonderful. And now you're in front of the audience,
Some
so
people are very good
I
at,
have a hook line.
Rajesh, I want to share this.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
people
please,
are very
please.
good at jokes. They're just like this in jokes.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
there's this guy who said, "This is an apple tree." Oh, then where is Samsung? Where is Lenovo? Where is Dell?
Okay,
And this is how he
okay,
started his interview.
okay.
Joke. So he used
Yeah, and
his
it
joke
kind of
ability.
absolute, and it kind of relaxes the panel. It kind of settles the whole atmosphere. So that's great. So in your book you talk about 50 powerful techniques. So I really wanted to go to the next one now. I am in front of the audience. I know that I could win them or lose them in the next, I don't know, 3.5 seconds, 7 seconds. So how do I prepare? It is really a moment of reckoning, sorry. So how do I prepare? Do I need to research? Do I need to rehearse? What techniques or what steps would you like to share with our audience to understand this better?
So ये ना कहना Rajesh is very easy कि no, I can do it in a jiffy. Today's generation is doing that. It doesn't work that way. You need to research, you need to prepare. So you do a lot of research, distill out some portion, and only have the gems for the audience that's going to impact them. What does the audience need?
Ah.
Your audience is full of people who have come from different mental sets. Like there
Hmm.
might be a corporate girl who's just come back having had a fight with her mother-in-law at home, or her child is crying at home and is with the babysitter. The other one has just come back from a bash from the boss. I mean, there can be so many things where your audiences have come from. To get them on that same level of mental tuning, you need to do something which is going to bring them here. And that's why a powerful opener is extremely important. And unless you have prepared your thought flow, got your structure in place, this is what I'm going to start. This is the connector. Then this is my body part. So we have that statement, na, tell them what you have to tell them. Then tell them. Then tell them what you have told them.
What you told
If
them.
you have
Okay.
that structure clear in your mind, you will not lose your audience for a single moment.
Okay. Okay. So you open it up and then you detail it and then you reinforce it essentially. That's wonderful. And I think the topic that you said about rehearsing, which is so very important. It reminded me of a quote you might have heard of Pascal, the mathematician. He's known to have said that he apologized to his niece, saying, "I'm sorry, I've written you a long letter because I did not have time to write a short letter." So, so what he really meant was making something precise takes a lot of time, whereas making something wobbly and messy, you could do it in a jiffy. So I think that's a very powerful message that I hope our audience, take through. Now, the next question, Doctor, that I would like to ask is, in the book, you have said the second thing is keeping the momentum going. Okay, so you have opened well, you hopefully grabbed it, but every movie or novel or any art form has this wobbly middle. We have this spectacular opening, a lot of novels, you can say, spectacular opening, and then there is a decent climax or a very interesting intriguing climax, but there is a portion in the middle, anywhere, whether it's a 45-minute presentation or a 2-hour movie. What can we do better to not have that middle sag that often happens?
There are two steps to this. One is signposting, which is the technical aspect, but the second is the experiential one. And I will give you example of both. So I'm going to cover, let's say, 3 points in the Surya Namaskar. So number 1, number 2, number 3. Now those 3 are your body, right? So I'm at point number 1. And then you do an activity. For example, if I tell you right now, Rajesh, that please take your shoulders up and wrap them behind you. If you can do it right away, take them up.
Yeah. Can you see
and
me?
then
Yeah.
wrap them behind you. This is the
Okay.
correct posture, and this is what Surya Namaskar will help you achieve.
Okay.
And once
Okay.
your back is straight, your posture is straight, everything becomes straight.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So this is one way that you signpost and you incorporate one activity with it. So this is a physical activity. Second can
Okay.
be a
Okay.
DIY. Third can be a mental quiz, or you're asking them a riddle.
Okay.
So I will ask you a statement. A woman without a man is nothing. What does that mean to you?
It, I mean,
A
it would,
woman
I would
without
agree with
a
that
man
statement, but I
is
would say it says a woman without a man is nothing. I would think that it says that a woman needs a man to be complete or something like that.
huh. And the other is the woman without her, man is nothing.
Okay.
It's the
So then you
same
kind of flip.
statement. I just paused differently.
Okay. Okay.
So I made
Right.
you do
Right.
this activity, right? Now I got you to think for a little while, for a few seconds, maybe. Or
Correct.
what did the
Correct.
Leaning Tower of Pisa say to the Big Ben?
Okay. Right. I know this one, so I will let the audience say it, but I've heard this one. But yeah, but it's a good one, right? I
I
mean,
have the
it's the one that
inclination
says
if you have the time,
the time, so
right?
absolutely. Correct. Correct. Correct.
So I
So
mean,
yeah, I
if I
think it
get
makes
you to
sense.
do these things, how can I lose you? I can't.
Correct. Correct. So, Doctor, I'll give you a real life example or a real life problem that I had, and just advise me what I could have done or should do if it happens again. So, I was presenting to a very large bank. It's a large American bank, East Coast Bank. So, like I said, I work for Infosys in the banking unit, and the lady who was the key decision maker, she would every time I would go to a slide, she would look at it and scan it in like 3 seconds or 2 seconds and go back to her phone. Uh, so I would show the slide and she would look up and I mean, if I read her right, she quickly concluded that there was nothing in it for her, or she knew everything that was there in the slide, and she would go back to her device.
Hmm.
Of course, I did the presentation and came out and all of that. But how can we do better in such a situation where your audience gives you a second or so, but then they go on to do something else? They are multitasking, replying to a mail or approving something. Is there any trick or device that you would like to guide?
Number one is, of course, that our preparation and our activities are so engaging that they don't get a chance to do that. Number
Right,
two is
right.
simply put it up there, no mobiles allowed during the class. That's a very silly way of. I know that that's not really what's going to work, but the answer to that is actually engage them. So
Better
getting an
content.
audience is very hard. Sustaining their
Yeah.
interest is harder, and keeping them engaged is the hardest. So you have to work out your presentation in a manner where you keep all the three spectrums in mind.
Okay, wonderful. I think the message really is better content, better preparation, better delivery, better execution of the presentation. Better delivery, and the things you said. Engage them, ask them questions, give them things to do. Wonderful takeaways, doctor. Now the next one is you talked about famous speakers. So could you tell us who's your personal hero for? I mean, who do you think is a really wonderful speaker, and what specific lessons would you like to share with us from the greats?
मैं किसी एक का नाम नहीं ले पाऊंगी because when I watch these speakers speak, what I look for is how. So I have seen TED talks where even the youngsters have spoken, and sometimes I
Mhm.
find them also captivating us.
Okay, okay.
But otherwise, in general, when I hear Mr. Modi, so I'm not, and this is apolitical, but when I
Yeah, yeah,
simply
political.
hear
Yeah, yeah.
it, it comes from the heart.
Hmm,
मुझे
hmm.
वो बहुत
Okay,
पसंद करते हैं.
okay. Oh, that's interesting because I mean I agree with you, and equally I like Shashi Tharoor as well. So which means that it is apolitical. They are on opposite ends, and we can absolutely admire them both for this. So is there any
But Shashi Tharoor ji का जो
yeah.
English है, that needs a lot of deciphering. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
But sometimes it needs a lot of deciphering. So
That is
When
true.
the
That is
brain
true.
has to be taxed, sometimes, not always, not Shashi Tharoor's example, but in general, as far as the audience is concerned, the more digestible your content, the easier it is to keep them hooked.
Correct. Wonderful. And now the next question is, I am in front of an audience. Like I said, this very example. So obviously, the lady that I spoke about, she was the key decision maker. I mean, essentially, the whole presentation was to her. But then there is a whole surround, right? There are many people that we also have to persuade, so that they in turn persuade her. It's never one person in the audience. So in your book, you speak about understanding the pulse of your audience. How do we do that? I mean, how do we know what are the motives, what are the aspirations, what are the red flags for an audience? I'm walking into a room. There are, typical corporate presentation. If I am a vendor and it's a multi-million dollar decision, there will be about 20 people on an average, 20 to 30 people, out of which only one or two I would know before, a priori, the person who set
Mm.
up the meeting for me. Everybody else I'm seeing for the first time. Is there any way to gauge the pulse of an audience or the aspirations of the audience on the fly?
So, unless it's an impromptu conversation, I make it a point, Rajesh, to get information about my participants. What is their
Okay,
age group? I create questionnaires, I send it across whoever is my contact point in the corporate world.
right.
So, like I was doing a parenting seminar. So, I made a group of questions and I sent out to those 120 participants who were going to attend it on what is it that they want out of this seminar. And I focused
Okay.
on those particular points. Now, how can I lose them? Because everyone is getting some answer of, and those are anonymous, but each one knows what his query has been.
Hmm. Hmm.
Having said
Okay.
that, in spite, so reading the room is very important. And I will share a real example that happened with me.
Hmm.
So I was with an engineering college and I had about 50 engineering principals ahead in front of me. Some principals, some HODs. None of them, Rajesh, was focused. And
Uh,
initially, I felt, what is wrong? Why is it that nobody is listening? Then I
correct.
just snapped and I inside my head and I said, no,
Huh.
I have to understand what's going wrong. So I just asked that I can see no attention falling in. Is there something
Oh,
wrong?
okay. You asked them directly.
I asked
Okay.
them directly. One of them stood up furious. Madam, we have not got our salary from the last 6 months and we have just fought with the management and come and you are teaching us soft skills. We don't want that soft skills.
Okay.
And then it was nothing personal, Rajesh. I
Uh,
I got that. And I said, fine, I get completely where you guys are coming from. Can we do, can we change the topic of this seminar just now, right here, right now? Can we do some stress management? Can we talk about how do you deal with the trustees such that you start getting results?
okay. Okay.
And then, oh my God, Rajesh, I think that has been the most mind boggling seminar that I ever had. All of them got into groups and they started. I said, now you have to think of constructive ways on how you're going to deal with this. So we put them into
Okay.
groups and the whole thing changed. So that flexibility also after reading the room, which means you have to really, really be a prepared person over and above the topic that you're actually speaking.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I mean, and also somewhere I think in this example, it became personal and relevant. That this was a problem they had, and the workshop or the session suddenly became about their problem rather than you pre-rehearsing something and dumping it on them. So I think that's a very, very powerful lesson here, which is wonderful. And I now come to my last question before I hand it over to the questions from the app. And this question is, that you like right at the beginning you said, and I also was very fascinated by your journey, from educationist to being in the aviation sector and soft skills and an author. So the question that I really have is how, so I'm sure to traverse a journey like this, you need to have a learner's mindset, but at the same time you also need to bring your wisdom of the, you can't start with a tabula rasa, you can't be a blank slate. You have to bring the wisdom, the learnings of the previous. So how do you strike that balance between the humility, or if I may say this, the naivete of a beginner, and the wisdom of a veteran. How do we marry these two contrarian thoughts when we learn something new? If you could help us in that.
I'll give this with the example of Kalpana Chawla's statement. She is no more,
Uh-huh.
but when she was up there, what she said
Okay.
was very, very important. She said, what I saw was an earth. Inside that earth, there are so many people, and in that, so many people's houses. I am living in one house, and in that one house, I'm one small speck of the universe. But when I'm there, I think myself to be so huge. My aura, my ego is so big.
Mm.
That
Okay.
that really touched my heart. So when I am looking at a plant where a tomato has just come up, the wonder and curiosity will be as fresh.
Uh-huh.
And yet, when I have to speak to an audience, my preparation level will be to another extreme. So it's like the tip of the iceberg. You will see just the tip. Perhaps you feel that I might have just spoken today because I'm a spontaneous speaker also. But there might be a lot of research that I might have done to suit the
Right.
requirement of this conversation.
Oh, wonderful.
So this
Wonderful.
much is your research, and this much is your, and at the same time, that
Uh-huh.
learning thing. That has never gone.
Right.
That has never gone.
So, so you see each as a opportunity to go to the next level or to acquire a skill or wonderful. I think doctor, it has been a wonderful 30 minutes of this conversation. I think we have a few questions on the app, so will you just give me a moment while I open up the app and look at the questions?
Sure. So yeah, great session so far. I'll quickly ask some questions on the app. There are actually quite a few. Uh, yeah, I'll ask one question from Anika ma'am to you is, can you recall a particularly unique or unconventional opening speech that left a lasting impression on an audience? You
uh,
want me to? Yeah.
that left a lasting impression on the audience. ऐसे बहुत हैं, but अभी मैं इसमें से इतना सोचना पड़ रहा है, मतलब गड़बड़ है कुछ. Okay, so there was this वक्त ने किया क्या हंसी सितम, तुम रहे न तुम, हम रहे न हम. That's when I started with that song. And then I talked about how to deal with grief because I had just lost my father.
Okay.
So I did have people resonating with my pain, with my grief, with, with goosebumps all around. मेरे अंदर भी था and लोगों में भी था. So yeah, things like this.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's a great example.
Yeah.
Would you like me to ask the next question?
Yeah, sure. Or if you want, I can continue because.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, that way I can. Yeah,
Yeah.
please. That will be wonderful. Thank you.
Sure. I'll just ask the next question, which is from Kavya. What common mistakes do people make in the opening of their speeches? Since it's related to speeches, I thought I'll just continue the flow.
I love this question, Kavya, and this is a very, very important question, and I'll tell you why. People start the opening with a big bang, but they forget to connect it. For example, if I don't connect the वक्त ने किया क्या हंसी सितम, तुम रहे ना तुम, मैं हम रहे ना हम, तो वो नहीं है अभी. अगर मैं वो कनेक्ट नहीं कर रही हूँ फादर के ग्रीफ के साथ, तो वो एक शायरी हो गई, एक सॉन्ग हो गया. That has no meaning. So unless your powerful opener is connected to what you're going to say next, and that's the biggest mistake. People say fancy quotes, fancy statistics, but they forget to connect it. The connector is very important. So brilliant question, Kavya. Love that.
Great.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful answer. There's an interesting question from Tamanna. I think it suits the occasion because you're doing this session via, live and the audience is not really in front of you. So the question goes, is addressing the audience different in person or on screen?
Definitely different. अभी मुझे imagine करना पड़ रहा है ना that there are so many of you. I don't know वहाँ है भी कि नहीं है. एक है, 10 है, 15 है, 100 है. I have no idea. But my enthusiasm in terms of speaking to you will not die down. But when I have a real audience in front of me, your task is even harder because then you have to read the room. That reading the room comes here. I'm reading the room, assuming there are people, assuming they are there on their screens and doing whatever they are doing. But it's just me. It's a one-way communication, or maximum it's a two-way communication, or a three-way triune communication with my Thinkly host and with Rajesh.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and I think you're doing a wonderful job in, keeping the
Absolutely.
audience very engaged here as well, because I see a lot of people on the community are, having a lot of fun and appreciating every quote that you're quoting. I think there are a lot of punchlines that they've highlighted. You can go back and check that on the community later. There's a question from Arman. Maintaining confidence while being authentic is crucial in public speaking. How can speakers strike a balance between projecting confidence and staying true to their authentic self while giving a speech?
अरमान, इसमें कहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम है भैया? मुझे समझ ही नहीं आया. जब आप ऑथेंटिक हो तो कॉन्फिडेंस लूज हो ही नहीं सकता है. कॉन्फिडेंस तभी लूज होता है जब आप ऑथेंटिक नहीं है. That's one of the biggest parameters of life.
Yeah, true. And I think that's a great example coming from you because you're just yourself. And I think that's the most amazing and beautiful thing about you. The confidence radiance, it comes out by being yourself, which is amazing. I hope that answers this question. Similar to this question, there is a question from Rajveer. Are there specific cultural considerations one should keep in mind when crafting opening speeches for diverse audience? Because there is a question from Sydney as well. For people who struggle with, confidence while they are speaking in public, do you have any suggestion or advices?
Simi and Rajveer, superb question, and something that you need to be really, really careful about. So, the simplest example here would be like when these singers go and they are going to a Punjabi crowd, oh, balle, 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 they will start with that. But if they are doing, hey, hello, and they are talking in Gujarati, it's not going to touch their audience. Similarly, when you go intercultural, when you go to the world platform, you go to the Middle East countries, you have to respect a few of their things. Okay, some countries do not like joke and fun. So that intercultural etiquette is one of the most important things, and this used to be a huge subject in my business communication. While crafting your speech, you have to keep that in mind. Super question. I like the dive deep that you guys have done during this presentation. आपने इतना सोचा है, ये मेरे लिए बहुत, this is what touches me.
Yeah, I think I'll ask last couple of questions and then I can hand it over to Rajesh sir again. There's a question from Aisha. How do you measure the success of a speech? Are there specific indicators or reactions from the audience that you consider particularly telling?
If your audience is engaged right till the end, if they are asking you questions, if they are participating in if they are not looking at their phones, okay, whether they are in the senior position, junior position, wherever they are, if they are not doing this, you have got them.
Yeah. And I think that's really tough, especially for people in senior positions. You can never not look at your phone. But I think with your talk and the advices and the kind of sessions people will attend and then they will.
नहीं, मैं एक सच्ची बात बोलूं, मैं तो क्या करती थी, जितने सीनियर लोग होते थे, आई यूज्ड टू टेल देम द फोन्स हैव टू गो आउट. And they would have a laugh. They would, हाँ, टी प्रोफेसर लेवल की है ना, so you're trying to throw weight. से जो भी समझ लीजिए, अभी आप फोन बाहर रख के आइए. And once they would be there participating in that thing, then that immersion would happen. They would forget about the phone. And I used to make them do a lot of physical activity. So I remember having the vice presidents of the companies do a dance. And what dance? What is that dance? Kombra dance. Kombra, tuk, 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 tuk. And it's there in one of my YouTube videos. They are all dancing. Can you beat that? You can't have your phone in front of you and they've just let their hair down. So वो हो सकता है. आप में हिम्मत होनी चाहिए उसको pull off करने की.
I think I'll ask one last question from Zishan because this question is very interesting and of the topic, kind of. Entrepreneurs often pitch to diverse audiences, including investors, customers, and partners. How can they tailor their pitches to resonate with the specific needs and interests of each audience?
So they'll have to have two things in mind. One is to hook them, but second and the most important, what's in it for them? The one who is funding your project, उसको क्या benefit होने वाला है अगर आपने वो factor in किया. So you have to keep a couple of things in mind. What are you speaking? Why are you speaking? And to whom are you speaking? Those questions, answer them, get your ducks in the row, and you've done it.
True. Yeah, I think it was a wonderful time for me to ask you questions which were written on the community. There are still a lot of more questions, but I think maybe you can check them later because of time constraints. Yeah, over to you, Rajesh. Thank you.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you so much. Pooja, the next question. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I
Yeah,
just
there.
said
Yeah.
thanks
Okay.
to the Thinkly host.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Pooja, the next, obviously, as we come to the end of this really wonderful session, the one is about your book. Can you tell us, what's in the book and what we can expect from there? Some what would be the benefits or the takeaways when we get our hands on your book?
So the book helps you to tailor your speech to different type of audiences. Okay. And it has different strategies like shock and awe, statistics, cultural things, dialogues. ये हाथ नहीं हथौड़ा है, and you talk about physical strength. So you connect things like these. रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप लगते हैं. You're talking about voice modulation. Okay. So it's about what is the target audience and what kind of speeches you can use. And I have used practical examples from what world over speech leaders have done. So that is how you can really get a connect of whether this has worked or not worked. And 50 of them I have tabulated, from jokes to riddles to lot of things. There are 50 different ways in which you can open. So, and I have also given example. For example, time management is your topic. How do you open that topic with different openers? So I have given practical examples, and once you master the art of doing that, then you become very adept, whether you're at a small party or whether you are in a pitching situation or you are just in a conversation. So it helps.
Oh, wonderful. I think so many takeaways, Doctor, and I really look forward to getting my hands on your book. And even this last few minutes that you spoke kind of addresses some of the questions that are there. If you ever go back and scroll, you'll see that your book does address, as I can imagine, a lot of this. Shock and awe, really trying to, I can interpret, or I can guess that it really means making some kind of an explosive entry where you grab people's attention, whereas statistics would probably work with a very discerning cerebral audience, I assume. But we will read your book and know more and more about that. So thank you so much. It has been sorry, go ahead.
End it on one more important thing, that the same 50 openers can be used as your 50 closes. And I'd like to close on something, and then we'll say goodbye. सच्चाई छुप नहीं सकती बनावट के उसूलों से, सच्चाई छुप नहीं सकती बनावट के उसूलों से, कि खुशबू आ नहीं सकती कभी कागज के फूलों से. कागज का फूल मत बनो, सच्चा फूल बनो और अपनी खुशबू फैलाओ. Signing off, Dr. Puja Sukhija.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Team Tinkley. Over and out. Goodbye, guys.